That's what I'm talking about. That is a Guntersville hog right there. Yeah! That's the way to start out the day, folks, right there. Look out, guys. I ain't out of it yet.
Now, what he said, that's the way you start your day. That was Mike Iaconelli. I'm Tommy Sanders along with Jerry McInnes. And that really is just a preview of what's coming up on this show, the Citgo Bassmaster Tour, presented by Busch Beer on Lake Guntersville in Alabama. Now, sometimes you don't trust your TV set because we know what special effects can do, but I can tell you, those fish were real. It is just going to be phenomenal on this phenomenal lake. Right there in northeast Alabama, in between the Sand Mountains and the Gunter Mountains, a TVA lake on the Tennessee River. The Tennessee River that has produced such lakes as Watts Bar and Pickwick Lake and Kentucky Lake, but this lake is special. That is some high-quality bass fishing water, as will be demonstrated today. Now, about the weather.
About the weather. I'm in charge of the weather.
All right, you can be.
Well, I tell you what, folks, on January the 31st, most of you were drinking hot coffee in your warm, dry homes. Our Bassmaster gang was getting drenched on Harris team. So we moved up to Jasper, Alabama the very next week, ran into 8 inches of rain and snow while watching Smith Lake come up 8 foot and turn muddy. We're supposed to be close to spring. Guntersville said not quite yet. The anglers cleaned snow from their boats this go around.
The positive thing about it is it's not raining.
Well, luckily it didn't rain either on day number 2. Not much anyway. This was the scene that greeted the anglers on day number 3. A 2.5-hour fog delay, but we've completed the first 3 days, and now we're down to the final 6 who will contest the championship. We're going for 100 pounds over the 4 days of fishing. And here are your contestants. From Texas, Zell Rowland, who's won here at Guntersville one time before in 6th place. Mike Iaconelli, the current Bassmasters Classic champion, 54-11th in 5th place. Kevin Van Dam, 2001 Bassmasters Classic champ, in 4th. Chad Brower, son of Denny Brower, coming up in 3rd place. Another Missourian, Stacey King, 68-11 for 2nd place, and 1 pound ahead of him, George Cochran, 2-time Bassmasters Classic champ, in 1st place going into the final day.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Busch.
Here we go. The anglers are out. We are underway on this final day in Guntersville. You saw George Cochran with a slim 1-pound lead. He's after a classic spot. No, he's after another classic win.
When you win the Classic, it'll last you 10 years as far as your sponsors and, you know, everybody realizes. But, you know, after about 5 or 6 years you hadn't won a Classic, then you kind of fade away. So my goal is to win another Classic. I'd like to, because, you know, Rick Clunn's won 4, and then I'm in the Bobby Murray, Hank Parker, and myself have won 2. And I would like to win that 3rd Classic. But more than anything else, I want to win this tournament tomorrow. Stay down.
And here's the problem with Gentleman George. He's got a bulging disc in his back, which is a problem after about 4 days on the water. In counting practice, he's been in that boat 7 days. Now, on top of that, he has a broken tooth and is in quite a bit of pain there. However, this fish
That's what we're talking about.
might help a toothache a little bit.
Woo! Well, that woke the crowd up as if they needed waking up. Stay with us. On the way, the ultimate insiders, the Bass Rats, will declare what's going on. We'll also check in with Mike Iaconelli, the current Classic champ, and another Classic champ, Kevin Van Dam, in action as well when we come back.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Busch. By Lowrance. And by Yamaha.
Back in Alabama on Lake Guntersville. This week's stop on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour, and what a big fish tournament we have going on this week. Amazing figures, the fish being brought in. George Cochran leading the way, trying once again to make it to the Bassmasters Classic so he can win his third. These guys are going for 100 pounds this week.
What do you say we place our anglers now? And George Cochran's not going anywhere. He's a half a mile from the put-in spot in front of the state park. KVD's about 4 miles away over to the main lake and off the east side of the river channel. Zell Rowland's 4 miles away. He's on the west bank of the main lake. Chad Brower's doing a little bit different. He's down by Buck Island fishing boat docks. Iaconelli and Stacey King go under the 431 bridge. Iaconelli ends up just short of the 69 bridge, and Stacey's fishing a main lake point over on the west side of the lake.
Here's the man himself, Stacey King from Reed Spring, Missouri, right there on Table Rock Lake, where our championship is next week. Stacey started out this tournament first day, 22nd place, jumped all the way to third after 2 days of fishing, and of course going in today, second place behind George Cochran.
And I'm going to mention the word jerkbait so many times, Tommy, you're going to think I am a jerkbait.
Oh, I already do.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Hey, this water temperature is about 48 degrees. That's why they're working them so slow. Stacey's in about 25 feet of water working his, actually a husky jerk is the exact lure he is using, and he's used to this technique.
Beautiful bass. This lake's got so many of them in, it's unbelievable.
Coming up now, I would hate to have these guys on my case. They're the Bass Rats, and the subject is Mike Iaconelli.
Who wants to start?
Freak!
He is a freak!
Iaconelli's a freak. It's a giant!
It's a giant! I got something for you. I'd like for you to measure one time, Ice, if that's a giant, okay? Work with me there.
I was at home after that tournament watching the show with my son, and he'd go, Dad, that's not a very big fish.
And he's how old?
He's 6.
Iaconelli, take notes right there, buddy. Yeah.
But you know what? The great thing about him, and I've said this before, and I'm seeing it more and more, people love to hate him. We need an Earnhardt, and buddy, he's it.
I love him.
I think he's a great guy,
We're
but
all
I'm
jealous
seeing
of him because
That's
he's
right.
kicking our tails from one end to the other every tournament we go to lately. I don't care where you go, he is busting.
But everyone asks you, they'll come to you and say, hey, what do you think about Iaconelli? You know, and I say, hey, he's cool, man. They're like, what? I'm like, he's like super cool. What about us on TV? I'm like, that's just him, dude. He's cool, but the deal is he is totally in rhythm. His mind right now, his confidence is so strong.
Confidence will carry to be in rhythm tonight.
Oh, God, it's a giant.
Well, maybe not at Harris Chain, but here at Guntersville, even money, it is a giant.
It is a giant, I believe, and he's throwing a crankbait. And you know what? He hit a snag down at Jasper, Alabama, but take that out. In the last 3 events, including the Classic, he has been virtually unbeatable.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah! Yeah. That's the way to start out the day, folks, right there. Look out, guys. I ain't out of it yet. Look out.
Say what you want. This guy's changing the game. I love it. He's a hot shot who can back up his claims.
That's what I'm talking about. Right there, baby. Yeah.
All right, from a soon-to-be legend to one who is definitely established right now, Kevin Van Dam, the 2001 Classic champ, as we mentioned before. But Kevin, besides that Classic, has not had a first place. Now, get this, since 1999.
Well, he is a fast fisherman, they say, and I want you to listen to these stats, Tommy. We looked at tapes now and counted this. Kevin Van Dam and Iaconelli actually cast 136 casts an hour. That's 950 in 7 hours. That's 25,000 yards, Tommy. That's 254 football fields or 14 and a half miles. Now, mull that over a little bit.
Why don't you just let your bait out beside the boat and just take off? And let out 14 miles of line. Wouldn't that be the same thing?
Boy, he covers some
Put him on
ground.
the little side again. That is not a 5-pounder.
Over to Chad Brower. Chad Brower has won back on what they used to call the top 100. Now, of course, we call it the Citgo Bassmaster Tour. That was back in 1996, so it's been a few years for Chad Brower.
And Chad is kind of like Stacey, fishing in very, very deep water.
There he is, big fish. Feels like a big fish anyway.
Hey, our three main jerk baits today are a Rapala Husky jerk, a Lucky Craft pointer, and Chad's using a Strike King Wild Shiner. You pull them down into about 3 feet of water and just let them sit. And Tommy, I'm betting that nobody can break that 100-pound mark.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think someone can catch 30 pounds plus today?
Well, that would be 100 pounds.
Now, if George Cochran does it, it's 100 pounds.
Several like that today might be all right. Oh.
I see what you're saying.
I'm going to try some different approaches today as far as angles to the bank. Sometimes I find these fish are right up close to those rocks, and then sometimes they're suspended out away from them. You just kind of got to determine that when you get out and start fishing. And so I'm just going to try some different angles here and see if I can figure out if they're real close or out of way.
Well, Stacey King here, Chad Brower, and George Cochran are all fishing so slow.
But see how I let it just sit there? Most of them, when I never have caught one, 70 pounds of bass I've caught, and none of them have been when the bait was moving. Every one of them has hit it when it was dead still. I watch that line constantly, because most of the time you'll see your line jump or it'll take off real quick. When that happens, they see it and it stops up above them, and they'll run up there and get it.
Can George Cochran be the 100-pound man today? Can anyone be? A conversation with George when we come back. Citgo Bassmaster Tour event on Lake Guntersville in Alabama. What a big fish tournament. This is final day competition. We've been out here fishing 3 days. Look at these weights. Now Stacey King in the lead with 76 pounds. These guys are shooting for 100.
Slugfest, that's what we've got going. And a few years ago, Dean Rojas caught 108 pounds in 4 days. That's the record. This man right here, Zell Rowland, caught 98 last year at Santee Cooper.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
And that's the records we're after right now, Tommy.
One of the most incredible things about all these fish they've caught this week is this water, the temperature is in the mid-40s. That's almost unheard of to produce fish like this.
And Zell is fishing a spinnerbait. Nobody else is fishing a spinnerbait, not too much anyway. And he's slow rolling the bait, and that cold water really plays into that technique. It's so cold, the fish just aren't that active, and when you slow roll the spinnerbait, it means you just barely turn the blade over, bringing you back to the boat so carefully, so slow. These fish aren't quite ready to spawn yet. Need about 4 or 5 more degrees.
Oh, man. One down and 4 to go.
Now, I want you to watch Cochran's line. The lure is just suspended in the water, and these fish don't want to chase it, but they can't stand it just laying there in front of their face. George said he got onto this in practice. When a boat went by him, and he didn't want him to know what he was fishing with, so he just allowed his lure to lay in the water. While it was laying there, a fish ate it up.
He's a small one, but I like him. Put him on the small side. I missed him the first time.
Well, gentlemen, George ties it up. And, George, I want to ask you a question. You talked about how important it is to fish slow. I want you to cast it out there and retrieve it too fast, like someone who's not having any luck on Guntersville might be doing it.
All right. Now, if I catch one reeling it fast, you're going to mess me up, okay?
Okay.
There's my cast. Most people are fishing it like this. They're constantly moving the bait, constantly jerking and reeling, constantly. And the fish won't hit that bait moving that fast. The water's too cold. And what I'm doing is I'm making a cast, get the grass off. I'm making a cast just like that. I'm pulling the bait down, twitching it, and letting it sit there, watching my line. And then I'll pull it down, twitch it a couple of times, and let it sit there anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. And 99% of the ones I'm catching, I'll see my line jump, and then I'll set the hook. In other words, I'm moving the bait down where I think the target zone is in the grass, and then I'm stopping it and letting it sit right there and giving them plenty of time to come up out of the grass and grab the lure.
Well, you said early in the day, on all the days you fish, that the fish are coming up to it. You're getting strikes, but what's happening is the fish are coming up to it, they get close to it, they see the hooks, and they don't really hang on to it. Why are they even striking in the first place?
Well, of course, naturally, the reason they're hitting it when it's sitting still, it looks like the real thing, and right before they get it in their mouth, they see the hooks, I believe, and then they turn and just slap at it. But when the wind's
like a swing and a miss, right?
Right, but when the wind's blowing, they can't see as good, the turbulence in the water. And when they come up, the bait looks real, and that's when they get it all in their mouth.
The key places where I've been catching most of my fish are right where it transitions from a nice taper to a little bit stretch, to a stretch where it's a little bit deeper on the outside. They're not right on the deepest stuff, and they're not on the shallowest. They're right where it changes. The other real key, I think, to several of the spots that I'm catching them on is there's a mix of both hydrilla and milfoil there. And the bass really seem to like that when you have two different types of vegetation together. Because you go to the back and it's all milfoil, and you go all the way out on the end and it's all hydrilla. And they're kind of right where the two kinds of vegetation meet together, where there's a good mix. There's one.
Well, jerk baits, crankbaits, spinner baits, and now lipless crankbaits is Kevin Van Dam using a Strike King diamond shad.
Right on my lineup, too.
This healthy-looking fish, at least what we can see. Oh, yes, right now should jump Kevin up to the top, right up there with Stacey King and George Cochran. 76 pounds, only 24 short of 100.
You don't think he wanted it? I'll tell you right now, if you see me going Ike, I'm going to have a real reason to be freaking out.
Going Ike, that means that Van Dam is questioning Mike Iaconelli's enthusiasm.
I think it's great that he lets it out like that, but I'd be wore out at the end of the day if I was screaming like that.
You know, I'm an emotional person. That's my personality. And I think it's a double-edged sword. It's good, it's bad. When I'm catching them and I'm excited and you hear me screaming and yelling and I'm pumping my fist, I am 150% ready to go again and getting in the zone and mentally putting myself into a different place.
There's a good one. Yeah, big one. That's the one we've been looking for. Right there. A monster. I might go Ike on you on this one. That is a Guntersville hog right there. That's my money bait. That's my money fish right there. That is what I'm talking about. I've been waiting just for the wind to pick up for this spot.
Man, look at that fish. That's the biggest since Robert Lee out in the Delta last year. Tommy, 100 pounds. We might make it, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, jerk baits, they're really catching them on those. We will see what they look like underwater. We'll have an in-depth look at Stacey King's spot where he's been catching all those fish, and we'll probably get close to 90 pounds when we come back.
That one is a 5-pounder.
Day coverage of the Citgo Bassmaster Tour event on Lake Guntersville on the Tennessee River here in northeastern Alabama. Incredible big fish tournament, big stringers, and look at those weights. 3 days of fishing plus half of another and 84 pounds. We're trying to close in on 100 pounds. Kevin Van Dam in our lead right now. Why are they catching so many of them? Grass is a big factor. They've got great grass, great vegetation underwater here. That helps the bass hide, the grown bass, and helps the spawning bass as well. Right now we're looking in on Chad Brower, still fishing those docks near the Signal Point Marina.
One nice thing, the water's only 40-some degrees, so they don't fight a whole lot. When you do get them, so they make about one strong run, and then you can pretty much have your way with them. Just don't pull on them too hard, and you're pretty safe.
Well, Chad's father, Denny's been running around the weigh-in area all day, acting like the proud father. And Chad, this moment, well, he should be proud. Chad's having a great year.
This is really my 8th year of fishing BASS. I qualified to get in what was then the top 100s when I was 24. And it's always been my goal to try to reach the pinnacle and win Angler of the Year and win the Classic. Basically following Dad's footsteps, try to do everything he's done and maybe do it once more. You know, I've worked, you know, pretty much my entire life to try to do that. And it seems to be getting better every year, but you know, you never can tell. Each year's a little bit different, and this fortunately been a very good year so far.
78 pounds of bass this week for Chad Brower. And yes, Guntersville may be the best bass lake we have seen in a long, long time. Here's a recap of our first 3 qualifying days.
It's probably the best lake in the country, without a doubt. I mean, the grasses came back and the fish are here too. Sad part is, if it was a little warmer, it'd be even scarier.
Well, that was our day 1 leader, Kevin Van Dam, posting a weight of 26 pounds, 3 ounces to start this event. He was joined at the top of the leaderboard by names like Larry Nixon, 3 pounds behind him, and Mike Iaconelli, who's been in the top 10 2 out of the 3 first days of competition this season. Day 2, we saw Zell Rowland move up 4 places with a 26-pound, 6-ounce stringer that included this huge largemouth, and Chad Brower jumped from 11th to 3rd place with a 3-day total of 46.12. Iaconelli took over the lead, while Kevin Van Dam fell to 5th place. But Paul Elias made the biggest move, 41st place on day 1, all the way to 9th place at the end of day number 2. On the 3rd day of competition, we crowned our co-angler champion with $36,000 in cash and prizes, including a year's supply of Citgo gasoline. And when the pros came to the weigh-in stage, it was George Cochran besting the field with 69 pounds, 11 ounces, a pound ahead of his nearest contender, Stacey King. Our field then cut to the Super 6, and 8 pounds separated 1st and 6th as the final competition began. Well, in our Rookie of the Year race, it's still Scott Suggs of Arkansas, a 30-point lead here at the halfway point in the season. And our Citgo Horizon Award, that award given to the angler who improves the most in the standings from last year. Believe it or not, the leader in that category, Classic champ Davey Height. More on that later on in our show. Well, the leader in this event's Purolator Big Bass contest is amateur William Robinson from Clintwood, Virginia, with this lunker. Caught on the 2nd day of competition, and this has certainly been the tournament of the big fish. As we compare the catches here at Guntersville after 3 days with our first 2 events, we see that even though the pros have caught 150 less fish than were boated at the Harris Chain down in Florida, the total weight is 500 pounds more than the 3-day total from that first event on the tour. You know what the average fish catch is? Yep. The average fish's weight, 3.5 pounds. Now, who would have thought that?
I'm just blown away.
Me too.
By this whole thing. And I tell you what, Mike Iaconelli's getting in his licks as well. And he's doing most of his damage with a crankbait. Has kind of an unusual technique. Makes his long cast. And incidentally, again, his casts total up to about 12.5 miles during the day. He runs his crankbait into the grass. He's hung up right now, purposely hung up. And he will jerk it out of there very violently. There it is. He jumps it out of there. Bam! Pull it out of that grass. He's after a real, honest-to-goodness reaction strike. He does that all day long. He's an animal out there, isn't he? However, again, this is the real star right here. This is a jerkbait. It has a bill on it that will pull it down into about 3 feet of water and allow it to spin and just hang right there. You know what now? A bass pro, any kind of a fisherman, has a hard time doing this because you fish for, say, 15 minutes or so and you haven't had a strike, and suddenly you're impatient and your instincts will make you start running the lure too fast. Remember, it has to pull down into that correct area and then hold very still.
Oh, there's, oh. Oh, that was pulling. That's the best one yet, boys. Come on in here.
Stacey's still sitting out off that point, probably in 25 feet of water, and there's schools of shad or bait fish all around him. He casts to the bank most of the time, but conceivably, he could make a cast in any direction and catch a fish.
How about that?
Well, yeah, Stacey, how about that? Hey, incidentally, while Stacey was catching that fish, George Cochran caught his third fish. He's up to 81 pounds now, but we're staying with Stacey for a minute. Stacey, I'd like to know what that spot there on the point looks like and your technique for fishing it.
Well, I've been fishing pre-spawn patterns, Jerry, where the fish are holding out off rocky points and getting ready to move into the spawning bays, and we've got a lot of that kind of water in the Ozarks where I live, and I've fished this way all my life, so I'm very familiar with it, and I like to fish this way. The shad are suspended out off these places too, and that's why that's what the bass are feed on. And so I'm trying to bring that suspending jerkbait through the shad schools and get them to hit, and it's been pretty productive so far.
Okay, Stacey, how about holding that bait up? Let us get a good look at it and talk us through a cast.
Okay, I'm just using a Husky jerk. It's a 10 series, and I've got a red Gamakatsu hook on it. Just looks just like a shad in the water, you know, and I'm just making a cast. I'm throwing it out there, trying to throw it up fairly close to the bank. Doesn't even have to be on the bank. And I'll pull it down till it gets down 4 or 5 feet deep, and then I'll just pop it a couple of times and stop it dead. And the longer, it seems like a lot of times when these fish are a little sluggish, the longer you leave it between pauses, the more apt you are to get a strike. And they always seem to hit it on the pause. Oh, I missed another one. I've had 2 strikes right there and missed both of them. But it seems like that the pause is the time when they hit it, so if you're patient enough to let it set a while, you're going to get a bite once in a while.
Back over to George Cochran, who looks poised to jump over Stacey King and maybe Kevin Van Dam as well, if this is a good enough fish and if he can get it in the boat. He does.
Woo. That's what we're looking for.
All right, and that's what he's got, is George Cochran with 86 now. Takes over the lead once more. 86 pounds, headed maybe for 100. Who knows? Let's take a look at the top heavyweights, the all-time highest 4-day limits. Dean Rojas right there on top with 108. That probably won't be caught today, but how high can George Cochran go? Also, when we come back, we'll turn loose the bass rat. On who? You got to stay around and find out. Go Bassmaster Tour final hours of the final round of competition here on Lake Guntersville. Your leader, George Cochran, was 86. That's right, I said 86 pounds.
86 pounds, and Tommy, George has not left his area in front of the Guntersville State Park. He's not going to use 5 gallons of gas this week. This is silly. This really is.
I'm going to have to lip this one. Yes! Now that made me feel a lot better. Yippee! 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 Now, that made my back feel better. Oh, he got it, didn't he? He's close to 5. He goes on the good side.
Oh, nothing like a 5-pounder to help out a bulging disc as George's army waits patiently.
We don't count little ones here. We just count good ones. Like this one right here.
This is a treat, folks. This is one of our sport's brightest stars in an unbelievable zone. He's going for 100. 100 pounds of fish over 4 days of competition. Be impressed. This is Gentleman George Cochran.
Easy, easy. Easy, easy. Yeah. Yippee. That'll keep. Here we go again.
I was telling Jerry last night about how these bait fish are suspended up close to the surface, and you can see right here the water's 23 feet deep, but there's bait fish suspended anywhere from 15 feet up, and the bass are mixed in out here feeding on them, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm just out in open water, but I'm fishing schools of bait. Oh! That feels like might be a pretty good fish.
Incredible to watch what George Cochran is doing right now. But here's Stacey King, Kevin Van Dam, Chad Brower, for that matter. They're all having the big fish event of their lives.
And Am I mistaken? Did George kiss the lure a minute ago?
He did. I like that concept. That's the first time I've ever seen that.
Yeah, I don't think I've... Hey, Stacey is up near the 85-pound mark. He's breaking into the record book himself.
I need you. I need you. Go easy. Easy. I need you back. Oh, yeah. How about
Put him in the boat, Stacey. And Stacey's got that do nothing to your jerkbait pattern down, boy. We're going to move over to George Cochran now, and I want you to watch his rod, how he stops it, moves it slightly. And as that lure is suspended in the water, a fish just comes up there and swallows it. George is out of his mind right now. And let's just sit back and watch this for a while. This is a treat.
Wait a minute. Take your time. Hook one little, whoa. Come on. Come over here to Daddy. Yes, yes. Oh, sweet. Look at that nice fish. Woo. Yeah. Now, where is the little one in here? There he is. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. This could be the biggest fish in the ocean.
George Cochran putting on a show, but what do the bass rats think of the man in the spotlight?
Gentle George. Gentle George is just, he's just out there mellow. He's on the crankbait or whatever.
I'll tell you what, he can pick them shallow on a crankbait. I mean, better than anybody. I mean,
What kills me, though, you can get in his boat and you couldn't fill up a Ziploc bag full of tackle. That man keeps it as simple as any one individual. That man don't even own any good tackle, and he's beating us like George.
I'd like to speed him up. He's just like, ooh, here we go, boys. Got the old plug wallering around there.
He's sort of dangerous in this because he doesn't have a lot of options. He'd have to go bar some tackle to get some on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just wish he'd hit the Stairmaster and get some legs on him and quit sitting down when he's fishing. That drives me crazy. Just constantly sitting down.
He is so anti what we are. It's you know, we
low speed, low key, sitting down, no pressure, and we're like totally keyed
And
up.
he's fishing tomorrow.
We
we're sitting.
Anybody else? Next.
Bass rats, you can talk all you want. This man will never be forgotten after this day.
It's a little pooter. God, that won't help me.
Well, George Cochran's day gets better. That's right. Yeah, I said better. When we come back, he has 98 and he's going for 100.
I don't have anything that small, do I?
Yippee!
In 2002, Lake Guntersville was the only stumbling block for an angler who had a year to remember. Find out more when we return. In 2002, Davey Hyde was on a tear. In 5 Citgo Bassmaster Tour events, he averaged a 9th place finish, winning 2 back-to-back events to eventually capture the Bush Beer Angler of the Year title. But that year at Guntersville, he finished 118th, providing a glimpse of how quickly an angler can go from the top of the world to the bottom of the heap. It didn't get much better in 2003 when Hyde finished in 163rd place for the season. This year, he's back to his former self, sitting in 9th in the Bush Angler of the Year standings and leading the Horizon Award standings.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tour, final hours of our event on amazing Lake Guntersville. Got to be one of the biggest days ever for the Bassmasters. And if our leader, George Cochran, quit right now, he'd be in 3rd place all time for total weight. But hey, it's been a great week for all these guys. Consider Kevin Van Dam. He's had quite a week, and he needed it.
It's been a really trying year so far. You know, I've had 2 tournaments, and, you know, just didn't go real well. So it feels good to bounce back, and I do. You know, you know. So I've always wanted to be in contention for Angler of the Year. And I started out so bad this year that that's going to be pretty tough. But I got to fish for that mentality to win Angler of the Year for the rest of the season. I've got to have top finishes from here on out, and that'll just get me in the Classic. Yeah. Good one. That's the one we're looking for right there. There's a whole school of them there. We're getting there. If I can land this one, this will go along. He's right there.
Look at that. Even Kevin Van Dam has switched from that Diamond Shad to a Strike King Wild Shiner, but everyone's too late. This is George Cochran's day. Here's what he told us last night.
We're going the big side.
My goal tomorrow is fish as hard and precise and keep focused completely that last ire as much as I would be that first ire. And that gets to be a problem for me because I get tired after 7, 8 ires. And that's my goal every day, is to fish the last ire or two as good as I do the first ire. If I do that tomorrow, I've got a good chance of winning. And I really think I'm going to win tomorrow. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Tommy, I don't really know what else to say about this performance. This could be the best bass lake in the country. George has figured it out, and he's burned 4 gallons of gas in 4 days getting to his spot.
Holy cow.
And I have to say that I think he's unbeatable right now.
Nice one.
Woo!
Yes, 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 yes. And that, folks, is as close to Mike Iaconelli as George Cochran will probably ever get.
Now what do I do? Dang.
See that shad right there? Here's what these bass are feeding on right here. Look how much that minnow looks like those bass. Same size, same length, flashes, they dart up and hit that. That's what they're eating right there. Oh, that is a good one. Gotta be. Look at him pull. Get down. Get down, big boy. I mean, I can't even get him coming.
Well, sure, as we watch, he's being overshadowed by George Cochran, but you got to say it, a fantastic job by Stacey King.
And have you noticed how many spectator boats all these anglers have had? And these spectators have been so cordial and quite entertained.
Come here, baby, let me get you. I need you. Oh, yes. Oh. Good. Thank you, Lord.
There's a good one. Oh my God, it's a giant. This is a giant. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is a giant. This is a 6-pounder. Oh my God. Giant.
Zell, Roland, Chad, Brower, they all had great events. They slowed down a little bit today, and we had to have a little bit more Iaconelli for you.
No, it ain't as big as I thought it was, but it's a good one. Being versatile, not being hard-headed, not catching them in the area. Never get hard-headed. Fish the moment. Be willing to change. And that's what's going to happen. They want to see red? They like that red rattle trap? I'll show them some red. Here's some red for you, baby. Take some flames. Take some flames and eat them, baby. Come on.
George Cochran's got some red for you. He's also got about 100 pounds of bass for you. I say that our unofficial weight is off 1 pound. At least I'm hoping that.
Easy.
Well, boys,
Congratulations, brother.
Let's go home. I'm taking my lunch and I'm going back to the barn after that.
All right, just when you think things could not get any crazier, George Cochran doesn't actually get all the way to the barn. He gets out there almost at the put-in point there. In fact, you can see some of the crowd in the background on the shore, and this happens.
One cast. I mean, he had his rod and reel put away. One cast out in the, almost into the audience, and he hooks this fish. I'm glad I saw this, you know?
It's incredible.
I'm glad I've got to see this whole performance by George. I'm giving him 100 pounds, Tommy.
All right, he's going to upgrade with this one. He's going on up to 100 pounds. How crazy is that?
I don't care what the official Trip Weldon scale is saying a little bit. I'm giving him 100 pounds.
Jeez, what do you do now?
He's going to compare him. What happens when you have a day like this? Who knows?
Yeah, he is in an obvious zone. I'm anxious to talk to him away from the fishing scene and see what he has to say.
Do I have to throw him back?
Yeah.
And that's my goal every day, is to fish the last hour or two as good as I do the first hour. If I do that tomorrow, I've got a good chance of winning. And I really think I'm going to win tomorrow.
Unofficially, we got George Cochran right at 100 pounds. The weigh-in is coming up. We're about to make it official. What we can make official right now, since all the fishing is done, is that the winner of the Purolator Big Bass Contest, William Robinson, Flintwood, Virginia, 9 pounds and 10 ounces. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Bush. By Flowmaster. And by Purolator.
We are back at Guntersville and ready for weigh-in time with George Cochran hovering around unofficially the 100-pound mark. I can't remember when we've been more anxious to make things official. So Fishburne, do your thing.
We're down to 6 guys. First man checking in. This is Sal rolling. Let's go to the scales right now. Weight, not quite going to do it. 9 pounds and 4 ounces.
I knew going into today, the way these guys were catching them, that I was really going to have to catch a load. Then I got a little nervous.
Michael! Iaconelli! What's up? Oh, there we go. Needed 15 pounds, double digits. However, 11 pounds and 6 ounces today.
I had an incredible 4 days of fishing. Great position for me in this year for Angler of the Year. So I'm just stoked, man.
Kevin Van Dam! 23 pounds and 2 ounces. Purolator Big Bass on the scales. Got it. 8 pounds and 5 ounces.
Really changed my whole outlook of the day when I caught that one, and you know, I just had a great day out there and fished around, and I finally got that big bite I was looking for.
This is Chad Brower.
I had a little slower day, but I had a few bites.
That'll help. Short, 17 pounds and 12 ounces. 17-12. Stacey King. Watch out. That's going to be close. Van Dam.
I think that'll work.
21 pounds and 6 ounces.
Kevin has beat me like a yard dog so many times. He could just give in once, don't you think?
This is George Cochran. He's going wild.
I love Alabama.
You ready, Guntersville? 29 pounds, 15 ounces. Look at this 5-bass lemon for George Cochran. Give it up, Guntersville.
I mean, I had one of the most fantastic days I've ever. Here's my sweet wife, Debbie. I had one of the most fantastic days of fishing that I've ever had in my life, and fond memories here in Guntersville. I won a tournament here probably 8 or 10 years ago with 60-something pounds. I thought that'd be hard to beat. Today, I was throwing 5-pounders back.
One more big round of applause, your champion, Guntersville Lake, George Cochran.
Man, it was close. So close. George Cochran within 6 ounces of making it to 100 pounds, but a big tournament for him nonetheless, and big numbers. As a matter of fact, his 29.15 from today, that puts him on top of the Bush shootout list. The top 10 heaviest single-day weights from throughout the season of fishing are going to fish in that amazing one-day tournament when it's all said and done. Let's check out quickly the Citgo Angler of the Year race, and man, did Chad Brower do himself some good here? I think so. He's on top now with 671 points ahead of Iaconelli. 2 Alabamans in that top 10. Gerald Swindle from Alabama and Tim Horton down there tied actually for 9th place with the guy who is leading our Citgo Horizon Award race, Davey Height. And Jerry, I know with each passing tournament, that E50 race, those standings get more and more urgent.
And we need the 27 anglers who have accumulated the most points over the past 3 years. Right now, Brett Chapman heads that list, but look down here at 27. 4 above it and 4 below. I think you could consider the bubble area, and boy, is it tight. Of course, Tommy, we also take the top 20 money winners of all time, and during the season so far, that hasn't changed.
All right, any quickly predictions for next week at Table Rock Lake?
Well, I want to congratulate George once more, and I want to try to get over Guntersville before I think about Table Rock.
It was almost too much to absorb.
No, really. I think we'll see a few good smallmouth. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe even a limit of smallmouth.
That would be nice. Join us next time, Table Rock Lake in Missouri on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour. I'm talking about right there.
That is a Guntersville hog right there.
Come on, baby, let me get
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to Bassmaster.com.
Yes.